picture.
And then it'll just say, yep, got it. And then it'll do, if you go back to the camera.
I can hear you guys a lot louder than Wendy.
So she's picking you guys. Yeah, she's talking to Steve and Sharon.
Okay.
Yeah, you're pretty faint, Wendy, but the staff's loud and clear.
Yeah, you guys saw that last night, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
If you speak up a little bit and clearly, it's okay. I just couldn't hear you when they were talking as well.
Okay,
Because that's the one that seems to be picking up.
all right. Do we have any members on Zoom
That's the same. They
that
couldn't.
we can't see on the monitor?
Even when you're whispering.
Toby's with us.
Right, I'm looking for any, so no planning board members, so I will call it complete. We'll go ahead and see both Lisa and Terry and get things rolling. So let's start off by reviewing minutes from our December 9th meeting. I know that Alicia had,
It's kind of hard to hear you guys.
I know that Alicia had circulated the minutes and there had been some grammatical and organizational corrections made. The copies that we have in front of us have in red some of the wording.
Try it again.
For everyone participating on Zoom, is it clearer to hear me now?
Much better.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. We apologize for all the fun with technology this morning.
And if the folks with the monitor could not rustle papers, it would be even better.
So we'll have a silent bubble around the monitor and we'll proceed. So we'd left some of the, I believe it was Bill Spence who'd submitted more verbiage changes in red on the copies that we have at the table here. The only one that I don't agree with is the line 43 to discuss. That was replacing 4. We're really not discussing the zoning amendment. We are having a public hearing for the zoning amendment. We are actually doing it today, not just talking about it. So I'd rather leave the 4 in there than the to discuss. If everyone's all right with that.
Yep.
Are there any comments on the other changes or any additional corrections?
But do we still say select men?
The ordinance is
Yeah.
the official title is Selectmen's
Ordinance
Ordinance.
number 9, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the one who made that. That and select board. I changed all the other to select board.
Okay.
So anything, everyone's still looking? Yes.
I guess on 56, I would insert ski resort, just because when we say Waterville Valley Resort, and this is a discussion we've had in the core, that we mean the whole shebang. We don't really mean just the ski area. So it doesn't make, when we talk about it, we should be talking about like the ski management company.
Was that how we were talking about it though? Because for the land use chapter, the resort, of course, is along in the valley as well.
Well, what are we referring to here? Are we referring to every single entity that makes up the experience of all end users that or customers or residents that come to the valley? Or are we talking about the company that owns the ski area and manages it?
I don't have your minutes in front of me, but Waterville Valley Resort is their registered trade name. So
I know.
I don't think you should ever use it in any other way.
You maybe can put LLC, or I think it's an LLC
Yeah. then-
after it. Would that fix
That's-
it, Nancy?
Let's do that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I believe it's LLC.
Yeah. Okay. All right, and Bill is here. Morning, Bill. Maybe.
Bill, your camera was working better for us where you had it before. Perfect.
Good morning, Bill. Mark?
Could we investigate the tax records and whatever the name of the company is on the tax
Yep.
record, we'll use that. And that way we're clearing up what you mean.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, anything else for the minutes? Oh, Bill, we lost your face again. Bill, did you have anything for the minutes? Oh, you're almost there, Bill. All right. Does anyone have a motion for the minutes from December 9th?
I propose that we accept the minutes as amended.
You have a second?
I'll second that. John Racine.
All those in favor? Lisa, what's your name?
Rich, I.
Nancy Knight, aye.
Wendy, I.
John, I.
Terry, I.
Bill? Hey, Bill, can you hear us? Tara, I know Bill heard you. Can you ask if you heard us?
Bill, can you hear the meeting room okay?
We don't know.
He's not muted but that,
I can hear now.
Okay, okay, good. Did you have a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, I did.
Any, we were just voting to accept them as amended.
That's fine with me.
Okay, can you adjust your
I have
camera?
one comment and I passed that on to Alicia.
Okay. Okay, can you adjust your camera just a little so we can see your face a little bit more?
Yeah,
Ah, there you are.
okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good.
All right. So, thank you, everyone. Let's move on to our first, well, for a public hearing. For the first item, we're looking to rezone the town-owned lot 105-1032C from the Village Commercial District to the Greenbelt District. Did anyone want to make any, I believe everyone at the table is pretty familiar with this. Is there anybody who needs further explanation? Any discussion for this? I see we have a member of the public in attendance. Any comments in favor or concerns?
Well, we're in favor, we're the Conservation Commission. But if anyone needs to ask a question, I may be able to answer.
Okay,
Just want to confirm that if the town was to want to put a silt or sediment pond in that area, that this change doesn't prevent them from doing that.
I believe that was why we had done it as the green belt.
The town is exempt from its own zoning as long as it's a governmental purpose, so the town could put a settling fund there.
A town could do almost anything it wants, anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Right, zoning doesn't affect the town's use of the property.
Okay,
The town has the power.
all right,
But as long as it's a governmental purpose.
right. Okay, do we have what we're looking to do today is move this to forward for town meeting in March 22. So if there are no comments, no discussion, I'll go ahead and Tara, do I technically can I do public hearings separately for each amendment, or can I group them together?
You could group them together.
Okay,
Do we have to close the public hearing to vote?
that's what I was just asking. So I'm gonna do the next one and then we'll group them. So the next one, we're looking to make more of an organizational change in the table of uses in the zoning. So we would relocate short-term rental within the table of uses contained in Article 4, Section J. To be more precise, we would move 4L use to combine with 1J use. That was in consideration of making short-term rental a bit more clear for when people are looking into where it's allowed. Any comments?
It's gonna become 1J. There
Right,
is no 1J yet. It's gonna become 1J.
right, sorry, yes.
I think it was written wrong somewhere, but that's,
In the minutes.
you guys don't pay me to read the minutes. So all I do is look to see if I was there or not. But
Okay. Any comments, questions on this?
Oh, we said to be combined
I
with
know.
1J use.
Right.
Yes,
But it's,
that's what it
no.
said.
It's creating a new,
Darn, we got it wrong.
We just combine instead of create.
I think it was correct in the note, in the hearing notice. That's what matters.
Okay. Anyway, so any discussion for this one? Clarifications needed? Anything from the public? Okay. Then for this as well, we're looking to move this towards the town meeting for 22. With that being said, I guess we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for these two proposed zoning amendments. Did the board need to deliberate any about these? Everyone's thoroughly avoiding my eyes looking down, so we're all good, I assume.
We
Okay.
hope,
We hope.
we hope.
Okay, so I'll take a motion for these two amendments. From anyone to care to make it
I would move to accept these amendments as worded
and move them.
and move them
Should
to
you-
a public
Should you
hearing.
take them one at a time, perhaps?
We could, does it matter, Tara, if we take them one at a time or together for this instance?
No,
Are we moving him to a public hearing? or-
No,
No,
this is a public
moving
hearing.
them to-
So we're just moving him to,
Town meeting.
Town meeting.
Okay, yeah.
so moving him to be voted on at town meeting.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor? Lisa?
Rich, I.
Nancy and I,
Wendy, I.
John, I.
Terry, I.
Bill?
Aye.
Okay. Great. Now, the next fun bit. We have the capital improvement plan presentation. Is that you, Mark?
Again, yep.
Okay.
Everybody received or has in front of them the CIP, is that correct?
Yeah.
So the capital program has been through the CIP subcommittee. And Terry, you can weigh in if you want to add anything to what I'm saying. We are looking at this 7-year plan in total, as far as the planning board is concerned. The selectmen have gone through the fiscal year 21, the first column, and have included all of these projects in the proposed budget, which will have a public hearing at the beginning of February, and then will be voted on at town meeting in March. One change that did happen last night, we are going to be changing some of the funding sources for the plan, but that's really a selectman function within the fiscal year 21 column. Going down through, I don't know, do you want me to go through every project, Wendy, or do you want to just open it up for questions?
I would say wherever people have questions.
Yes, okay, so
Unless if you want to talk about everything.
no, I would like to highlight the big ones, the road project for $900,000, which is under highways there in the first group. That $900,000 will be combined with existing funding. If you remember, we have previously authorized another $900,000 at town meeting in 21. That money will be combined together, and it will be for the paving and reconstruction of town roads from the I Valley Road intersection here at the entrance to town, up the hill, take a left onto Tecumseh Road, around to Snows Brook Road at the Silver Fox Valley Inn intersection, take a left and follow Snows Brook around all the way back to the other end of Village Road. Okay, by the golf clubhouse. So all of that is being designed and would be put out to bid as a single project, combining the two bond authorizations.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
How did you come up with that number to do the roads? Did you have someone come in and give you an estimate or?
Yeah, so the engineer, for the first half of it, from the intersection out here at I Road around to the first end of Village Road, that's already designed and it's been cost estimated by the engineering firm.
Got it.
That's where the first $900,000 came from.
Okay,
The second 900,000 is an estimate based on the length of it, but the engineer is doing the design work right now and will have something back from them for a budget to confirm that this is the correct amount.
okay.
And that includes Village Road.
And that does include, no, it does not include
Doesn't.
Village Road. It's from one end of Village Road and then connecting all the way to the other end. So it does not include Village Road at all.
And it
Okay,
doesn't
so
include
it's
most of
Snows-
that.
Snows
It's
Brook.
all Snows Brook Road.
Okay.
Yeah,
And it doesn't include most of Valley Road.
it does not
Right.
include most of Valley Road. That's correct. It only includes Valley Road up to Tecumseh, the Tecumseh intersection where we take a left and go down to Tecumseh.
Thank you.
And the other piece of this is that this will create the pedestrian bike
Yeah.
pathway as part of the entire road surface. So our intent is to widen the road, move the travel lanes over so that we create it's integral with the road surface, so it's just one surface. It'll be lined to show where the pedestrian bike path is.
So has there been any talk after the, so doing the rest of it won't happen within the next 6 years? So doing Valley Road Village isn't in the,
Yeah,
Timeframe?
Or all the other roads, actually.
yeah,
yes, all the other roads will wait until we get the design work completed.
so they will be inserted in
They-
theory.
We will update the plan, yes,
Okay, okay,
as necessary.
okay.
And then the other piece of this, excuse me, I just need to open another. Can I look at the plan that you're looking at?
There's, yeah, copies there.
I sent you the wrong one, I'm sorry.
Oh,
So, but it doesn't change the other piece to this. You're looking at the 21 plan, but if you go over to the second column, it's 22. And that is the correct year. That 500,000 just changed to 900.
oh, okay.
Okay. The only other changes, we moved the 5 million that's shown in the fiscal year 22 column. And we have put that off until fiscal year 23. The intent was to be, when we first came up with breaking it into 3 pieces, the intent was to be further along in the wastewater treatment plant than we are right now. We've been waiting for the EPA to get us the final permit, as we've discussed before. And so we have pushed that $5 million back a year. We are currently in the design phase for the wastewater treatment plant. We are completing, we're hoping to complete that by the end of this year, which we should be able to. We've received word earlier this week from the EPA that we will have the final permit in hand, hopefully by the end of next week. And so we can continue on with the design phase. We we've only borrowed 1 million out of the 5 million that was authorized at town meeting last year. That is going to be sufficient to get us through the design phase right now. And if we have any improvements that need to be made at the plant as we go along, because remember, we have to keep the current plant running. So we do have monies actually in hand that if something happens at the current plant, we can make the temporary repairs. We have received very good news from the state DES that our eligibility for assistance from the federal government and from the state has gone up quite a bit over the last few months with the ARPA money that's coming into the state. We are the 8th ranked project in the state of New Hampshire as far as the priority list from DES. And that puts us in what the state is referring to as Group 1. And all Group 1 projects are now eligible for 50% reimbursement.
Fantastic.
So it actually was a good thing that we pushed the 5 million off. The The only caveat to that 50% eligibility is you cannot spend any money on that and get reimbursed. So the design work that we're doing right now, that first $1 million that we have taken out of the 5 million, that's going to be on the town 100%. So, but we're minimizing that amount of money, and the really big amount that we would be putting up in 2023 would be all eligible for the 50% reimbursement. And because there's additional infrastructure money that could potentially be coming forward, the state has indicated that the 50% is a floor, and it could be more. So we're hopeful that by the time we get into 2023, that percentage is higher.
So is that 15 million that's shown in 23
It's
getting up to
actually 20.
24?
No, the
Oh, it's
23 number
combined.
is
Okay.
20 million instead
Gotcha.
of 15. That should-
Okay,
The other items that are on here have pretty much remained status quo in the FY22 column. The exception to that is in buildings and grounds, we have created an engineering line instead of these this DPS building repairs and parking lots. We eliminated that $100,000. We changed it to 50,000, and we are going to be doing some engineering and design type of work, just investigating what the possibilities are around town, and that includes recreation potential facilities. We've been talking about that pavilion and bathrooms and that sort of thing. So we need to have a pot of money that's going to allow us to do that design work.
right.
The vehicle replacement plan is tracking on all of the departments. We didn't make any substantial changes to that. The funding source change that the selectmen made last night was this plan, the way that we put it together, did not have any use of fund balance. So that was impacting the bottom line of the budget substantially. The selectmen decided last night that we will utilize $121,000 out of fund balance to finance the capital reserve accounts and the cash capital items within the budget. But I'll explain all of that at the budget hearing. The other major change here in the CIP that we put in there was it's not a CIP project, but it's a one-time cost, and that is the revaluation project will be $70,000. So we have an actual proposal from the assessing company. But that will be paid for through that. That's part of the 121,000. Terry, did I miss anything? Sorry about the mix up in the copy.
The protective gear replacement that was,
Yeah, right. The gear replacement for public safety was added. That is actually a 95% grant program. So it's $160,000 project, but we're only going to be responsible for $8,000 of it.
and that's going to show up somewhere.
And that's going to show up under public safety.
I'm sorry, what is it? Gear replacement?
Yeah, it's the air packs.
Oh, like stuff, not
Yep, stuff.
moving.
gear
Yeah,
for
that
them.
makes sense. Okay. Like there's a big gear somewhere.
No. There are big gears on all of them.
Yeah,
They don't cost that.
I would hope not.
I
That's
hope.
good. Yeah. All right, and remind us when the budget hearing is?
The budget hearing will be Wednesday, February 9th at 6 PM at the conference center. And I will distribute the actual correct file
Fantastic.
to you, and if you have any questions, please. call.
Anyone have any questions? All right, thank you, Mark.
Okay.
And Terry, who else is on the CIP committee?
Bill Spence and Rob Wilson.
Okay,
And I want to thank the three of them. They, we met, 3 or 4 times with department heads and everything else, and have talked through the plan and the financial impact of the plan. Obviously, was the federal money is much less than we were projecting over the last couple of years. But there's still a lot of uncertainty around it. And so I'm hopeful that we can get some clarity before town meeting. And we can, start to show people, because we're getting some design ideas out there, and the conceptual, what the plant's gonna possibly look like and where it might be located is gonna be hopefully a little bit clearer by March. So we can give the town an update during town meeting, and then we can continue with that design work.
fantastic. Well, thanks for your extra time. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Terry keeps us very honest.
I'm sure.
That's good. Somebody's got to.
Well, somebody's got to.
All
I
right.
learned my lesson during the ladder truck discussion.
I'm sure you did. All righty. So, master plan revision time. Are you back with us, Tara, or doing something else? We can revisit, we can come back.
I don't know, I was writing your warrant and ballot language. So
Oh, thank you. All right, so we have what we called it, a little strategy for moving forward. Well, here, why don't you go ahead and take over and let us know what you need, where we're at, etc.
I've got to find the email I sent you. So one of the things that I was hoping for today, so I could move forward or not, was feedback on the format of the action plan. Obviously, I don't expect you to have any substantive conversation today on what I sent yesterday. But I didn't fill in all the columns in the action plan because I wanted to run this format by you. Do you have copies?
We do, yes. So the idea with the action plan is it would be just something, another document for the planning board for when we identify that something is going amiss, or is this more of a select?
No, this is the final chapter of the master plan. I just didn't put it in the master plan document yet because it's going to be a lot easier to work with it in Excel, and then when you're done, to copy and paste it in to be the final chapter of the master plan. This actually goes in the plan that you adopt. And it's the recommendations, it's the policies and action items from the plan. It really is almost like an executive summary of the plan. And I always write them with the responsible party, kind of the lead in bold, so that you can go through it every year and say, well, who's supposed to be doing what, and even have a meeting of the town boards to do that. What I was kind of thinking about when I was in my head, like, which category do these different recommendations go in? I thought, well, what if we had these other columns that said, well, here are the benefits of this recommendation. And they're each, most of them have multiple benefits. Just another way to think about the plan. And in in a perfect world, I'd have those headings on the top of every page. I just couldn't get that to work yesterday in time to send it out.
I think it definitely helps. It makes the master plan a bit more actionable, I suppose.
Well,
And my question was also about the new part, which is those kind of value columns at the end.
Mhm.
I mean, you can have the recommendations in each chapter if you want, and in an action plan at the end, but I think it works to have them all together, because that's your checklist every year. But what do you guys think of having these value columns at the end? At least as you think about the recommendations and discuss them at future meetings.
Sorry, when you say value columns, I mean, we were talking about adding on, or?
No, like where it says livability, safety, town tax rate, those columns. Well, how do you feel about having those in here?
for what purpose?
Yeah, what do we, like, what's the header above it? Like, what's the,
Benefits. But I couldn't figure out how to get two rows on to hold as a header.
So basically to show what each action would be useful for, or would benefit.
Right.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, because if someone's
I
saying,
like it, yeah.
yeah,
well,
Waterville Valley isn't safe enough, we can look at this and just go right down the column and see what at least we suggested.
Do you want to take a couple minutes to see if this is the right list? Talk about, I made these up. Are these the right columns?
As far as the benefits columns,
Right. I kind of did it as I was writing the recommendations.
Oh, I see.
Mhm.
yeah, let's take a couple of minutes. Are we missing anything in here, or?
Just an A in high quality.
Yeah, the thing is that Excel doesn't spell check. Once it gets in Word, we'll be in better shape.
Yeah. I think it's very good. I
Might be
think they're
cool,
understandable.
yeah.
Tara, what did you mean by the town tax base tax rate as a benefit?
Growing the tax base and
Growing.
not growing the tax rate.
That's not bad.
That was the town manager's comment.
I think, a lot of what jumped to me the most when I was putting stuff together that some of you provided and research I did and so forth in the previous plan is what the real theme here is the connectivity and the things the municipality does that help support the recreation business, and how, as I put in the plan, how symbiotic that is. So I'm sure that the tax rate is really important to small businesses who are operating kind of on the edge, not just homeowners.
Is this action plan, this is something that you're proposing is reviewed by the board once a year or something like that?
Yeah, once you guys are, done with it and decided to adopt it, that this is what you want to adopt as your master plan, then yeah, I mean, I would love to see the planning board, select board and conservation commission at least meet, and department heads meet together once a year. Or Mark representing the department head.
And by resilience, Tara, you mean facilities?
No, I mean, as a plan, I think about resilience in a number of ways. It's businesses being able to bounce back after COVID. It's not having the fire station in the floodplain. It's being a 4-season resort so that the recreation businesses are okay in a snowless winter.
Would we want to have some sort of explanatory appendix, which would let readers understand what we mean by each term?
Yeah, we can write an intro to the action plan chapter when we get to that.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I just kept it in Excel because it's gonna save a lot of time as you make edits to these. Tables in Word take up a lot of space and are really slow, awkward.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's a great setup.
And if later on, as you're reviewing the recommendations, you, maybe another category jumps out at you and we add that, we can't fit one more, but we'll see.
Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and complete the draft action plan with my thoughts on those columns. That won't take me very long. So I have my list that I sent you in front of me, and there aren't any big holes in the plan, except I think waiting to hear from Brooke with her feedback on recreation, just because she's out this week, and I know she's hoping to get back to me next week. But there aren't any big holes. I think that, I backfilled everything I didn't receive from planning board members. So it's a complete enough draft to start working on and talking about. In the meantime, I wondered if it would be easiest to designate one. If I was actually hoping I could pick on Rich. Just because you sit on both the planning commission and select board, and historical society, that if we could just set up a phone call one day and go through the items that are still marked in yellow, and I'm guessing that you can answer some off the top of your head and tell me where to get the answers to the others.
Sure, not a problem.
Just trying to be expedient now. And I'm sorry I missed number 2 in my list. That would be, so while you guys are working through this first draft, which will take several meetings, who else do you want the first draft to go out to, if anybody? I had told the Conservation Commission I would share it with them, and they meet a couple days before you, so you would be able to have their comments at the next meeting. But in addition to the Conservation Commission, is there anybody else you want this first draft to go out to? Other than Mark, obviously, because he's gonna correct all my facility stuff. Right, or anything I changed from what he gave me. I already heard some updates in the CIP report.
Yeah, you just received a copy of the correct one, Tara, in your email. I just emailed it to everybody, so you all have.
Okay.
But so we have Brooke, Mark, and the Conservation Commission looking at the first draft. Is there anybody else to go out to before you guys discuss it, or while you're discussing it?
I can see in a couple sections where the Historical Society might be good to have one of them run their eye over some of the language.
Okay.
Tara, at this point, are we worried about coordination with the public in any way? With outside interests, stakeholders, like the resort or the development company or whatever? Or are we waiting until we get a draft, a final draft to have a public meeting?
I would actually have that be an additional step. When you guys have this kind of internal input and you've discussed it, then there are some people like that I would send it to before a public hearing,
Okay, all right,
right? And kind of an interim step.
yep, yep.
I never want to see the public hearing be the first and last opportunity for that kind of input. I like to see it as more of an iterative process, and that everybody's on board with it before you have that formality.
Yeah, there are some big stakeholders.
Yeah. I would want to-
Right. Yep, no doubt.
So we want to do the Historical Society at that time as a
No,
stakeholder,
I
or
think
just,
that's still an internal.
just do that
that's a
internal?
Town government
okay,
function, so.
Okay.
So, obviously, if, there's any other thoughts in between, just, run it by Wendy, and Wendy can make that call as chair in between meetings. So the next thing was, how you guys gonna get this done? Do you want to schedule some meetings between your regular meetings?
I suspect we'll need that unless if we want to change our goal to the end of this calendar year.
So my suggestion in doing that is that you start with the land use chapter. And my thinking for that is twofold. One is that that's going to be the least impacted by these internal reviews. And have you heard the thought about, if you're trying to fill a bucket with stones, you put the biggest one in first,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So my suggestion would be to schedule an interim meeting to start talking about the land use chapter. That one could take a while for you guys to reach consensus on.
Is everyone up for an additional meeting before
Sure.
our next? Can we shoot for one in January, or you good with that?
Wait, are we talking about reviewing the master plan,
The land use chapter in the master plan,
just that chapter?
just that
just that
chapter.
chat.
Just that chapter, but you'll need to read the whole thing to be able to come to the meeting ready to talk about the land use chapter, because it does all hang together.
And that is the most important, because that's the only one that actually is necessary for it, but it's not the longest. But, so by biggest, you mean most important?
Could you hear that, Tara? Uh-oh.
I didn't say it was the most important. I think it's gonna,
But
I
it's not
have a hunch it's gonna be the most difficult one for you guys to come to consensus on.
Okay, you said the biggest, and it's not the biggest.
Well, I
Yes.
said the biggest, putting the biggest rock in the bucket first is like doing the hardest task first.
Most impactful.
More, the thing that we'll be talking about the most.
Okay. I didn't-
Yeah.
I think once you guys have reached consensus on that, and we've got feedback on the other chapters, those are gonna go much more quickly. So I didn't mean it as largest in terms of volume, but it's a way of saying, when you have a whole bunch of tasks in front of you and you feel overwhelmed, get the hardest one done first, and then the others go easily.
Okay,
All right. Would we want to look at our typical cycle and meeting in 2 Thursdays? Is that, Tara, do you have availability?
You know, were you thinking about, I'm sorry, I didn't hear, are you thinking about 8 o'clock in the morning, or do you want to do a like 4 o'clock thing, or what works best?
okay.
8 o'clock in theory, just to
So-
keep our same schedule.
So the last week of the month, I could meet any morning.
So the 27th could work.
Yep.
Nobody wants to meet in the afternoon.
Not anyone who has to work. We could do evening,
Well, I was thinking 4 o'clock. Is that a possibility?
5 o'clock is, or 6.
On the 27th, I can meet anytime.
Is there a problem with mornings on that day, or?
Well,
I have no problem.
Are you working? We don't want to
with that time.
work if you are planning on working. I mean, and it's after work for Wendy.
Are you talking to me or
Yeah.
Wendy?
Sorry, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
If you were gonna work that day and 5 o'clock is after work for everybody.
No, I don't have I don't know yet. That's the problem. So the worst case scenario is I just missed a meeting.
Oh,
But at this point, I think I can make it.
okay.
That's all.
Um,
And everyone else can make the 8 o'clock, so it's not, shouldn't really be up to me to.
Well, we want to try to be
Change
as
everybody's-
inclusive as.
Yeah, I
if there's a-
would, I think Nancy and I were with Tara were the main drafters of that section, so I think perhaps whatever fits our schedule, that could fit as many people as possible,
Yeah.
because we're probably the most familiar with the language.
Now, bear in mind that when I say we're gonna talk about a chapter, we're talking about the action items to do with that chapter, not just the background material. And that's why I think it's gonna take a while to work through. And I think you guys really want to find a date that you can all be there, because it's not gonna work if in 2 months, somebody who wasn't there has some problems with some of the recommendations.
Right.
When you go, we want this to be a plan you're gonna implement.
Wait, are you saying we're gonna read the chapter, but we're not actually gonna talk about what's in the chapter? We're just gonna talk about the action items? Is that what you
Both,
just?
both. I think you need to talk about them together. When you
Okay.
talk about land use, you need to talk about the chapter that's called land use, and you want to talk about the recommendations and policies that go with that are in this spreadsheet.
Okay, so as a whole, which
Right.
makes sense. Okay,
Now, I was just commenting, making the point that the people who wrote it ought to be there.
Yes.
But you guys only, yes, that's true too, but you guys only wrote the description of existing land use.
Right.
I don't want anybody missing from the conversation about what zoning amendments you're gonna propose that comes out of this.
I agree.
all right, so,
So
So
the 27th.
anytime works on the 27th for me.
yeah, I'm just busy between, say, 12:30 and 3:30. Other than that, I can be there.
Okay, Lisa, does that work?
Fine.
Okay, so John,
Questionable, but I'll make it at this point.
Terry, 27th,
Actually, I can't make it that morning, but in the afternoon would be all right,
or evening?
but don't worry about me.
Well, of course we worry
Trying to
about you.
Yeah, I think Terry's really important for continuity.
Input is really valuable,
You've
Terry.
been around a long
We
time.
worry about you.
What if,
The old man.
Yeah, the old guy, the gray beard. Do we have a sense of how long the meeting would be? Maybe that'll help.
I hope you will stop after 2 hours, no matter where you are. I think it's less constructive.
yes,
So 2-hour meeting.
would the evening work for you?
I could make it
think?
in the evening.
Okay, should we look at evening on the
I can make it
27th?
anytime after 12, actually.
Yeah,
so.
when can you start, Wendy?
5 o'clock,
So 5?
5 to 7?
5 would be good.
yeah, okay. Phil Larson,
Yeah, the 5 is fine.
Okay.
Lisa, is that okay with you?
okay, why don't we say 5 o'clock then on January 27th? We'll plan for in-person. And it's fine to do it here, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last thing's hopefully easy. Is it Corcoran Pond or Corcoran's Pond?
Corcoran.
No S.
No
No
S,
S.
ever.
Oh, yes.
Even though all the maps are printed with it with an S, it's not.
All right, so don't feel the need to mark that up that I consistently did with an S in the draft. I'll just globally do a search and replace.
Yeah.
In the next draft, I'm not gonna take up time to do it. And then, so I started a little bit with how to talk about the 471 acres that you're sitting in the middle of right now.
For any-
Because the plan has to be for the whole town. And there's, the private lands that are on those weird corners of town are like 30% of the town or something. They're significant. And a lot of the recommendations that we make pertain to them too. If we talk about shoreline setbacks, we talk about zoning. So a lot of the plan has to be about the whole town. So, but I needed some way to designate when I'm talking about the 471 acres that's kind of together. So I called it the village area, but I'm concerned that people are gonna think town core when they hear that. So I wondered if there was a better term. There's a tendency to talk about that like the town, but it's not the town. Town's much bigger and is 98% national forest.
Mark, is there anything the town has used historically that would,
The village area.
it is the village area?
That's what we've always referred to it as,
Okay,
the privately owned land has always been the village.
well, should we just be more consistent with referring to the center of town as the town core and the village as the whole town? Maybe it's on us to be more consistent.
No, the village is the.
The
is-
471 acres, that's what I tried to do in the plan.
The way that we have historically used
Right.
the town staff
Right,
has historically referred to the village is the entire 400.
yeah, that's what I mean,
Plus acres.
right.
The town core around town square. Town core is basically what we've called it.
So maybe it's more on us to be more precise with our word, our verbiage, so that we can use the village as the term for the settled area,
The privately owned land.
right?
So we'll
Yeah.
try to make sure that we're clear about that in the introduction to the plan.
I think we can define village as the inhabited area.
Yeah,
It only makes sense.
But you always say town core, not town center, is that right?
That's
We-
what we have.
Well,
we've been doing.
yeah, but yeah, because the core isn't exactly in the center. And, right, and we do mean not the whole village. We are talking about,
Commercial,
The commercial one.
Yeah.
commercial one area mostly. Well, some
Yeah.
VC thrown in.
So
yeah,
I'll make a note when we're ready to do revisions for the next draft, to add to make sure there's an introduction that sets those things out and that I've used those terms consistently through the document. So-
we have a definition section maybe we should put one in the master plan, just a definition page, so that we.
Yeah, I think putting it in the introduction is, we can have a definition page, but that gets kind of to the where do you draw the line point. I think if we talk about an introduction, it might be better.
But we can see how it goes with the introduction, and if we feel like there's still some
Okay,
wiggle room, and add something else.
either way.
Okay.
So I want to encourage people who find typos or grammatical errors to just email me directly. Let's not plan to take up meeting time with those.
Okay, sounds good.
And I have to say that if people send me things that are just, this is how I would have said it, I'm gonna ignore that unless I'm directed otherwise, because I'm pretty careful with the town's money.
That sounds good to me. I mean, unless there's some, yeah. That sounds good to me.
I mean, each one of you would have said things differently, but that's not always the best use of town funds, so.
Well, it's why we're paying you, so we have an outside expertise voice saying these things, and
But
we
I'm
don't
not-
get,
But I'm not perfect either, so be sure to send me typos and
On the other hand,
corrections.
there are some passages that don't make sense. I read the first 25 pages. There are some things, so I kind of wrote, it won't take up any time because I wrote, here's what it ought to say, because it doesn't make sense. And I'll send it to you, and you'll see what I mean once you read it.
Could we do that?
Yeah, and I'll either make note of those corrections or we'll bring them up at a meeting to see what
Yeah.
other people think.
I think You're talking about what's called the happy glad phenomenon.
Yeah.
Change happy to glad, and some says no, change
No,
glad.
no,
back to
no, no,
happy.
no. It's not word choice.
Right.
It's like,
You need
Yeah.
clarification. That's a different,
yeah.
that's a
and
different
there's- Yeah.
system. You don't understand, a reader has to understand.
Right, yeah, perfect. And a reader from the town has to understand it, and I'm not from the town, so that's where you guys come in.
Yep.
Your filter is really important.
Okay.
Great. Okay,
That's all I needed to keep you moving forward.
fantastic.
So we have to read all 118 pages in 2 weeks.
Yes. And
And,
the-
and the separate,
Oh, yes, let's not forget the action.
yeah, don't forget the separate spreadsheet. Yeah,
And probably read land use twice.
I wrote it in 2 or 3 weeks, so you should be able to read it.
Okay. And while you're here, before you move away, I know we're talking about communications later, but Tara will be part of a lunchtime series that the New Hampshire Planning Organization hosts. Would you want to talk to that briefly, Tara? Was it on the 20th, I believe, at noon?
Yeah, I need to write that.
Oh.
Yeah, I was asked to do the talk on master plan implementation. And I think that you guys are gonna be hearing the same thing from me over the next few months. To basically be the master plan should be written with implementation in mind, and here's how you do that, right? There's just so, and that's why I edit with a pretty heavy pen, that the master plan wants to be this, it wants to be this, right? Not 200 pages of data and background information and inventory. That you want to write the natural resources section within mind. What implementation steps do we need to support in this document? So I don't think it's probably a lecture that you guys need to hear. You move forward on, that's one reason that you guys are such a pleasure to work with. I hopped in when you were implementing your pedestrian village study. You're still doing that with your CIP and zoning amendments. But there are a lot of communities that still just put everything they can dig up in a plan and put it on the shelf. And that's really who this hour is going to be aimed for.
Okay.
Will there be a link?
Yeah, I was just looking for that. It's New
Yeah.
Hampshire.
Do
Oh.
you mean to afterward?
Well, we could, there's an opportunity to register for the OPD plan webinar series. There's a whole series they're doing
okay.
for luncheon meetings.
It's part of that.
Alicia send that
It's-
to you.
Okay.
No, I got it directly from them.
Okay,
So-
can you send that to Alicia and we'll make sure
Forward
that
it.
everybody can
Yeah,
look that over.
because
And
it is
if you
a-
want to participate, the town will, if there is a fee or whatever for the meeting, the town can do that. It's considered your training as well, so.
Yeah, I don't think there is I don't think they charge for these.
I don't think
I don't
they
think
do.
there
I
is
don't think
either.
they do, but
Yeah.
if there is any cost, just.
Okay, this is that webinar series.
Yeah, the webinar.
Okay,
that-
I
yeah,
follow now. Okay,
yeah,
And they do post them, afterward.
yeah.
yeah. And they have, it sounds like they're doing one a month at least
Yeah.
for this luncheon time. So there are different topics that will come up each month.
They post the recording on YouTube.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Tara. We'll all be busy reading.
I think I'll continue listening to you guys because I want to hear if you're going to talk more about the occupancy.
I think we had just put that on as a tickler file to remember to revisit later.
Okay,
So
Right.
it's the a reminder, but not necessarily to talk about.
okay, then I will get on to other things. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara.
All right, so for committee reports, we don't have anything to report for the town core group. Conservation Commission?
So we had a meeting planned for Monday. We had to cancel it. The reason being is Rick Vanderpool still has to continue his mission on the mitigating on that silt problem. And he can't walk that land until the snow is gone.
Oh,
So we've got to wait
be a
for that to
while.
happen, I believe. Was there anything else, Mark, that you have?
No.
I think, so we postponed it. I forget when it was, but we postponed it for now. And we'll have to continue that later. But that was pretty much what our big meeting was all about,
okay.
that mitigating that silt problem coming into Corpus Pond.
So in theory, he needs to walk that in the spring.
He
and-
walked a couple of miles of it and was able to track where the silt's coming from and how to deal with that, but he has to go further up.
Hmm,
There's quite a few miles of water streams that are coming down through, so
right.
that's what that was all about.
Is his intent to trap the silt, or is his intent to prevent the silt from being dislodged?
Prevent. So what they do is they actually take the surrounding wood and configure it in such a way near the streams that when the streams overfill, it catches it, all the silt, just by the natural surroundings using that material right there. And then it keeps the silt from overloading the streams and coming into the pond. And I'm not quite sure how he does it, but next time he's here, we'll kind of,
He has a diagram that I'll try to get Terry for you,
Yeah,
and it shows, a graphical representation of what they do with the ground cover.
I'd be interested.
They use
Yeah.
rocks and trees that are there. Most of it is already blown. They use blow down as much as they can so that they don't actually have to go and cut a lot of trees. It's more of arranging it on the bank. So
and I'm guessing they don't do it along the whole stream, but they do it in
in
sections.
sections.
So it catches that silt, would be a huge savings in dredging the pond.
It's sort of like using riprap where you just are slowing the water down so that the sedimentation comes out of it prior to getting to the pond.
I have a question in my mind about, you're building up the silt all over the place. Does it eventually have to be cleared out? I mean, it's not like, it's going to disappear. That's why I was wondering if what action he's taking is actually going to prevent the silt from dislodging and getting into the system, as opposed to collecting it in several different places where eventually,
Have to dispose of it.
yeah, something's going
Is
to
that
happen.
Once
We'll get Rick to come in and answer.
Yeah, once he finishes his investigation, he'll explain all that to us for sure. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Were there any communications for the group? Nothing? All right, so yeah, I just put the occupation as a tickler file for us to come back to. It just seemed like with the master plan, I wanted that on the back burner, but I didn't want to forget about it. All right, so we have our next regularly scheduled meeting, February, what is it? February 10th. We'll be meeting January 27th in the evening at 5 o'clock for the master plan review, land chapter highlighted. And of course, the budget hearing
It's in the ninth.
before,
Yeah,
yep, February 9th.
The evening before.
So in February, you can have 2 fun-filled days right in a row with town stuff. Awesome.
And Monday
budget-
with
the
school,
budget hearing.
so you can have fun
February-
days.
School budget
February
hearing,
9th.
right?
At 6 o'clock. Yes.
The
It's
school
on the
budget's that
14th.
Monday.
Monday, the 7th.
That's at 5:30.
Yeah, I think so.
So a fun-filled week to be had for all. Anything else that anyone needs to bring up for our meeting today?
What time was the school budget
I
meeting?
think it's at 5:30.
Okay.
And as far as I know, they're also doing the conference center. So I think everything is at the conference center.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's it.
yep,
Interesting.
a little more space. So anything else? If not, be happy to hear a motion to adjourn.
Let's make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that. Karen Mercy.
All in favor? Lisa?
Rich, I.
Nancy, night eye?
Wendy, I.
John, I.
Terry, I.
Bill?
Yes.
Excellent. All right.